Welcome to the PR Maven Podcast, a podcast all about growing your network and building your brand through traditional and digital networking techniques. I'm Nancy Marshall, the PR Maven and CEO of Marshall Communications. I've been strengthening brands through PR for over 35 years, and now I'm celebrating the success of executives, influencers, business owners, and entrepreneurs from all around the world, all of whom have cultivated their brands and broadened their networks through traditional and digital networking methods. Each week, I interview one of these interesting and influential individuals and provide an opportunity for you, the PR Maven Nation, to gain insights from their strategies and stories. So stay tuned for this week's episode, and thanks for listening. Hello, PR Maven Nation. Welcome to the PR Maven Podcast, episode number 76, presented by Marshall Communications, creator of the Marshall Plan 65-Step Strategic Process. So let's move on with what's going to be a Solocast about why a marketing plan is important. Well, first of all, a marketing plan is important because PR and marketing are expensive. And if you don't have a plan, then you're going to waste a lot of money. I've always compared it to being like a hamster running around and around in a wheel, but not having any idea of where you're going. A good plan provides a blueprint. Of course, you would never build a house without first having a plan, ideally a plan by an architect that lays out whether you're going to build a ranch or a cape or some kind of a mansion. You want to have a blueprint for what type of marketing you want to accomplish, and that needs to take into consideration the amount of time that you have in order to grow your brand and grow your market for your product or service, and also what kind of people or human resources that you have both internally and externally. So a plan that's a blueprint should also maximize and measure the results. And I think measurement is very important because a good plan provides an ongoing way, we call it a dashboard actually, to measure all the types of results that you're generating. Now, ultimately, you want to probably generate sales if you are a for-profit company, or contributions or donations if you're a nonprofit. But there are other ways you can measure, you can create measurable metrics, such as, for example, engagement through social media, or the number of email addresses that you've gathered for your e-newsletter, or perhaps the number of inbound calls that you're getting from prospective clients and customers, or the number of people that walk in the door of your business. Those are the types of things that you could measure. And of course, there's no cookie cutter plan. It's not like you can go to the library and get out a book called Marketing Plan for Everybody, because there's no such thing. Every single company and organization should have a customized plan that's built around their own unique situation and goals. So the way to get started in creating an effective PR and marketing plan would be first to start with your brand platform. And a brand platform should include a brand story. I think what happens with most companies is they first think of their logo, like what's the artwork for the logo going to look like, and what color is it going to be, and what's the picture going to be of, et cetera. But we at Marshall Communications like to start with what we call the brand manifesto. And the brand manifesto is actually kind of a history of your company or organization, along with your vision and your mission and your values and what you really stand for. Your brand platform and brand manifesto should include what differentiates you from everyone else who does the same thing. So a complete brand platform would not only include the brand manifesto, but it would also include a logo and a tagline And then it would have a style guide that would include all the different ways that the logo can and cannot be presented. And it should also have a voice guide too that describes exactly the language that the brand uses. Like, are you a hipster company that uses hipster language? Or are you an educational institution that only uses Oxford English and the Oxford comma? Or are you kind of a conversational brand that's targeted at people who are, families with young children? Part of your brand platform should include who you're speaking with and who you're trying to connect with. The next thing that your plan should include is quantifiable goals and supporting objectives. And these are the things that should include a measurement or a dashboard. I talked a little bit before about having a marketing dashboard, and we'll include a sample of one of those in our show notes. Next, you want to have a competitive analysis, and this would be a list of all of the other organizations or companies in your marketplace who are serving the same audience. So, for example, if you're in the car business, when your customer is coming to buy a car from you, who else might they be shopping with? Or if you are a clothing brand, where else are your customers shopping for clothing? Or if you're a ski resort, what other ski areas are they going to? The competitive analysis will look at the pros and cons of your competitors so you know where you stand and where your positioning is within the market. Next, you would want a SWOT analysis, and that's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And obviously, you want to be able to work with your strengths and opportunities and maximize those. And you want to minimize your weaknesses and the threats. So that's what the SWOT analysis is about. Next, you would want to have a list of tactics which encompass a full range of marketing tools. So you might be talking about everything from doing publicity and public relations, to doing social media, to doing search engine optimization, to doing paid advertising, both in print and broadcast and online. You might want to be doing special events. You might want to be doing speaking engagements. There's just so many tactics that you can engage as part of your marketing program. And your marketing plan should lay out all those tactics and how they fit within that brand touch. When I'm talking about a brand, I always think about how every time you touch one of your customers, for example, when they call you on the phone or when they walk into your store or when someone from your organization reaches out to them, there should be a consistency of branding. So the feel of your brand is the same, no matter whether people are connecting with you in person or online. Next, we would want tools and templates that will enable you to implement the plan. So, for example, you might have a template for a special event. So, whether you're having a special event in a certain city, or you're having an online event, or you're having you're deploying your logo in different mediums, you want to make sure that these tools and templates are all spelled out. Again, what you're aiming for is consistency across the board. You want to make sure that you have a plan so that your brand looks and feels the same way, no matter where a customer is interacting with it. Another important part of a marketing and PR plan is a timeline for implementation. Again, if you're trying to implement something really fast, then you better have, first of all, a lot of detail in your plan, and you better have a good budget to pay for it because doing things faster costs more. So take that into consideration. And I mean, you can't accomplish I mean, you might be working 24/7 if you're doing a startup, but Be sure that you are realistic about what you're going to accomplish, and be sure that you have a budget. Now, your budget should take into consideration, again, all of your paid advertising, but also all of the human resources costs for hiring people, whether they're internal or whether they're contracting out. It should also take into consideration all of the subscriptions that you need and equipment. For example, you might be buying cameras or tripods. You might be buying video equipment. Whatever it is, you should have a detailed budget and you should have it organized so that it's projected out by month. Or again, if you're trying to accomplish a lot very quickly, you might even want to have a daily budget or a weekly budget. Finally, you want to include measurement outcomes tied to each tactic. So, for example, if one of your tactics is to send out a monthly e-newsletter, you might want to say you're aiming to send it out to a minimum of 3,000 people in year 1, and in year 2 you want to double that to 6,000 people, and in year 3 you want to send it out to 9,000 people. And you might want to have some other measurement outcomes from your e-newsletter. For example, a way to measure the number of people who go to a certain landing page from your e-newsletter and download some kind of content that you have on that landing page. Another measurement outcome, for example, might be if you're hosting a special event and you're going to invite 100 people to a conference room at a hotel where you're going to give a presentation about the benefits of using your product. And out of that event, out of the 100 people that you invite, you'll have at least 50 people who attend, and then they commit to buying your product or something of that sort. Be sure to make it specific, because if you don't have a specific goal, then it's really just a dream, and it's really not business. So having a business involves having a plan that is specific and measurable. We're going to continue our conversation shortly, but I want to share some exciting news with you about how you can connect with me on the podcast. We've created the PR Maven Podcast listener line, and you can now call 207-620-9075 to get in touch with me to ask me questions, share feedback, or ideas for the podcast, including who you would like to hear on the show as future guests. I look forward to hearing from you, and right now we will take a quick break and be back with more in a moment. This podcast is all about growing your network in order to strengthen your brand. In my 30-plus year marketing and PR career, I have seen many organizations waste their precious time and money on marketing because they're trying to obtain success without any strategy to achieve their goals. So many organizations and companies suffer from what I call the shiny object syndrome, trying every new fad that comes down the pike. That's why I created the Marshall Plan 15 years ago. We have done over 100 of these plans for clients, helping them to get out of their day-to-day routine to identify their goals, solidify their brand story, focus in on their ideal customer avatar, analyze their strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and create a realistic budget and measurement dashboard. We create the Marshall Plan collaboratively with our clients over the course of 3 months. We have a 65-step process to create a highly customized, actionable plan. And it's not like we come in and say, we are the consultants from away and we know everything. Instead, we come in and say, let's sit down at the table with your leadership team and we'll bring our expertise in what's working in PR and marketing. And our client team brings their knowledge of what's working in their organization. And together we come up with a really amazing plan. For many, it's been a transformative process. I have watched how teams have come together and their faces light up because they have such a sense of accomplishment and they're so excited about the future of their organization. We help our client figure out the best way to implement the plan, sometimes using people within their organization and sometimes with our help. We would love to chat with you about how you can expand your network and achieve your marketing goals with a Marshall Plan. Go to marshallpr.com/marshallplan to learn more about the process, or better yet, send me an email at nancy@prmaven.com and we'll set up a time to talk and get started. And now back to our conversation. So now it's time for our book and things to do today pad giveaway. To win a copy of my book, PR Works, and a PR Maven Things to Do pad, visit prmaven.com/giveaway and enter today to be our next winner. And I want to welcome you back. And today we're talking about why a PR and marketing strategy matters. So I want to dive right back in. I started the agency after having worked in a variety of different companies and organizations where I felt that I went to work every day, not really knowing exactly what the strategy was. I knew I was doing a bunch of things, like I was always writing press releases and making calls to media people. And I was, sometimes traveling to different cities for trade shows and events, but I didn't really have any idea of where my role fit into the big picture. So, after having had my agency for several years, I decided to create what we call the Marshall Plan. I figured, Marshall was my last name, and why not have something called the Marshall Plan, which is much like the plan for the reconstruction of Europe after World War II, except our version of a Marshall Plan is actually how to organize or reorganize a company or nonprofit for marketing success. I want to give you some examples of some clients we've done Marshall Plans for. One is the city of Saco, Maine. We had a delightful team of representatives from the Saco community, led by Emily Roy, who is the marketing and communications manager for the city of Saco. We had the police chief. We had someone from the school department, the recreation department. We had somebody from their downtown district and several representatives from different community organizations. And as a result of that plan, which we put together collaboratively with their inside team, they were able to attract 6 new businesses, and they now have the second lowest unemployment rate in the state of Maine. There was a news article announcing their new logo and tagline, which are all part of the Marshall Plan, that appeared in the local newspaper. And they launched an Instagram account, which gained nearly 700 followers in the first 3 months. There has been ongoing media coverage in local news outlets about Saco. And one of the outcomes that I'm most proud of is that we were able to teach the city leaders, the municipal leaders there, about nurturing positive attitudes and positive relationships with local media outlets to keep the stream of good news going in the media. And it definitely has benefited the whole image of Saco. And actually, even Emily, in her role, she has become such an ambassador for the city on a statewide and national basis. She's done great work, actually, even training police officers and ambulance personnel on becoming spokespersons with the media. And the last I heard, she was going down to Boston, Massachusetts, and training public officials down there in public safety. So we're just so thrilled about our work with the city of Saco and specifically with Emily Roy. Another example is First Park, which is a business park located near Waterville, Maine, in the city of Oakland, Maine, or town of Oakland. It is a park that was created as a result of 23 municipalities all coming together to try to create jobs and employment for people in their region. And in 3 months, the leads for First Park increased by 157%. You can see how we had measures to our metrics so we could measure the return on investment of their Marshall Plan. And since the plan, 2 new businesses have moved into First Park and have paid a total of $630,000 for their new properties at First Park, which delivered a return on investment of, wait for it, this is a big number, 1,475%. Now, if if you can't be proud of an ROI like that, I don't know what you can be proud of. I mean, that is just pretty remarkable. I feel so proud and pleased. And, I feel really grateful that our plan and our process was able to help a client, because they have been struggling for years trying to kind of get off the start line as far as marketing, and we kind of created a roadmap, literally, to help to point them in the right direction. And Jim Dinkle, who actually is going to be a guest on the PR Maven podcast, he's the executive director of First Park, and he'll talk in glowing terms about how grateful he is that we were able to map out a process for him to raise the profile of First Park. And it hasn't been easy. It's hard. It's hard work. But truly, the results speak for themselves. We measure the coverage views of all the media results that have been generated about First Park, and those already are at 13.5 million, including articles in Maine Biz, which is Maine's business newspaper, and a lot of local television coverage as well. We've also helped position First Park as being dog friendly, which has been a lot of fun, and have taken a lot of photos and videos of the dogs that go to work with their owners at First Park. So that's been an interesting twist. Again, we call that positioning. That's a way to take advantage of what I call the long tail of the web. So if somebody were searching for a dog-friendly business park, First Park would hopefully show up in that search. And by creating ongoing content, we help with that positioning, which results in good search engine optimization. The final example I want to give today of a Marshall Plan that we've done for a client was the Clay Center for Young Healthy Minds, which is part of Mass General Hospital in Boston, Massachusetts. And as a result of the work we did for them, their web traffic increased by 400% from the previous year, and their total page views were up 300%. They were able to exceed the goal of 75 million media impressions by earning 99,815,531 impressions, including top-tier media like the Huffington Post, the New York Times Tea Brand Studio, and Fox News out of New York. And they were able to increase their e-newsletter contact list by 89% over 1 year. The number of likes for the Clay Center Facebook page increased by 51% from the previous year, and Twitter followers increased by 67%. So you'll see by these examples that I've provided today that when we do a Marshall Plan, we provide very concrete metrics of success or critical measures of performance for the plan, so that when I call them bean counters, when the people who are actually keeping track of that return on investment And also, if you're doing something for government, for a municipality or a state or a town, you need to be able to report back to the residents how you are spending their tax dollars. So you have accountability and responsibility to generate a return on investment. And that's really the beauty of a Marshall Plan. I'm really very proud of, we've developed this 65-step process, and we've tweaked it and tested it and improved it year over year over year. And every time we do a Marshall Plan, we get a lot of feedback from the client so that we can make it better for the next client. So I want to thank you for joining me today for this Solocast about why a PR and marketing strategy matters. And I hope that you'll get back to me if you have any feedback. Feel free to email me at nancy@prmaven.com. And I just want to remind you that this podcast is presented by Marshall Communications, which is the creator of the 65-step Marshall Plan strategic process. And to learn more about the Marshall Plan, visit marshallpr.com. And a reminder about Alexa. If you have an Alexa device, you can say, "Alexa, play the PR Maven podcast," and you can pick today's episode or a previous episode. And you can also enable the skill to receive the daily PR Maven podcast flash briefing with tips and advice from each episode. Thanks again for tuning in to the PR Maven podcast. And remember, you can always learn more about how to use Alexa's features and subscribe to the podcast at prmaven.com/podcast. We appreciate you listening and encourage you to share the podcast with at least one friend or coworker or family member, and let them know that they can find it on their favorite podcast player. Remember to go out there and keep building your relationships, build your network, build your brand, and embrace all the new technology that's available to help you do that. Have a great week, PR Maven Nation. That's it for this week's episode. I'd like to thank you for listening, and if you feel that you've gotten value out of today's conversation, consider leaving a 5-star review on iTunes or whatever app you're using to tune in. If you haven't subscribed yet, you should do so. I release a new episode each week, and subscribing will make sure you get an alert when there's a new episode. You can also join the PR Maven Nation by going to prmaven.com/nation and clicking join. It's free, and it's a great community of like-minded individuals who are all looking to learn and grow from one another. If you have an Alexa-enabled device, be sure to add the PR Maven Marketing Minute to your daily flash briefing menu. Thanks again for listening, and have a great rest of your week, PR Maven Nation.